There's only one Valentine on Who's Views. Welcome to We Love Davros season.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Who's Views and another in our We Love Davros series. And as you can see there, Paul's already there with We Love Davros, which we do. Welcome, welcome, welcome everybody. As you can see, I'm here with Paul, Phil, Michael, Bedouia and third Dr. Ian. Hello everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning. Good morning from Australia.
Oh, listen, good to see you all. We are going to be talking about Revelation of the Daleks. But before we do that, everybody, it is We Love Davros season, and one of our Davroses is celebrating his birthday today. Yes, it's Davros number 2. So happy birthday to David Goodison. Hooray! Hooray! Happy birthday, Mr. Goodison. And yes, of course, happy Davros birthday. From Destiny of the Daleks, which is not the story that we're going to be looking at tonight. But it all counts. It all counts. So happy birthday, sir. Hope you're having a lovely day, and I hope you've got jelly and cake. That's all that matters on a birthday, isn't it, guys?
So jelly and cake, definitely, yeah.
Also, before we get into the show as well, sorry, Ian, what was that?
Do we know how old he is?
Well, it's not polite to say, is it?
No. That's a no.
I'm doing a hasty Google.
Well, there he is. There, looking marvelous. There he is. That's good. I want to say hello as well.
83.
There you go.
Wow.
Good for him.
I know. Yeah. Oh, there you go. I want to say thank you as well to everybody that's been sending us pictures in as part of our We Love Davros season, including Atom. I'll look to see if he's in the chat in a second. Hello to everybody that's in the chat. But look at this one. This is he did a whole range on his DeviantArt page of top Trump styly illustrations, and this was his of Davros there. Intelligence for Davros 980. Not bad, is it?
Very good.
Almost on a par with Bedouia is there.
What's an ogre on? Any idea?
I don't know.
An ogre or a sea devil?
Yeah, they're reversible, aren't they? That's right. Yeah.
And let's have, look, everybody's coming into the chat to see us now as well. Hello to Matt, the Silent Wee Music King. Let's have a look. Meddling Funk is with us. Hello, Meddling Funk. Sadeko24 is here. Kirsty is here. Hello, Kirsty. Nice to see you. Have a lovely party because she's on her way to a party. Sadeko is saying, how can you not love a face like that? Hello.
Who are we talking about? Which one of us?
Yeah, I was just wondering that, actually.
You, of course, Phil. Of course. God bless you. Garbage is here. Garbage will look after everybody in the chat this evening as well. So hello, Garbage. Thanks for joining us. Just Jordan's with us. Hello there. Nice to see you. I'm hoping you're all going to love Revelation of the Daleks. We've got Cybermatch Strikes here with us. She's causing trouble, is old Kirsty. For the benefit, if you're listening to us, Kirsty is causing trouble here. But going to go now, but this panel is not very diverse. I'm going to, what's that mean? Big love and have
it's something the kids say.
Yeah, so don't the kids thing. Yeah.
I can't go with them. I wish they'd learn English. Hello to Blue Worm. Sorry, good morning and evening. Nice to see you. And the great healer absolutely does welcome you all, doesn't it? It's a bit scary, this one. Blue Captain Jack is with us. Hello, everyone. I also want to say, it's not in the chat there at the moment, but hello, and thank you to this gentleman for sending this picture in. This is Mark D. Lewis, who some of you would have known, I am sure. And this is his depiction of the Davros we're going to be talking about in this particular story. I really like Mark's work. You may have seen it all on social media. But isn't that really good? I think this was on a canvas, I think Mark was saying.
That's lovely. Really nice.
Yeah. The old Ina Sharples, Paul.
Yes.
And talking of which, yes, this is the Davros we're talking about as part of We Love Davros in this particular episode. And there he is having a coffee.
There we go.
So he had legs back then.
Yeah.
Oh, let's not start that one. And of course, this is Terry Malloy.
Bless him.
But we're going to be talking about his Davros in this particular show. And one of the reasons I thought we'd talk about this particular one is this is a really Davros-centric story, isn't it?
Mm.
You know, it's not really about the Doctor, this particular one. It is about Davros as this big character called the Great Healer, which is very funny in itself. Do you not think? Really funny. But I want to say to you guys, I was rewatching this for the first time in ages for this show the other night there, and really loved it from the moment it starts. But do you know what got me about this? Doctor Who was never the same after these 2 episodes, was it really?
No, it was a turning
Not
point.
really, no. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean by that? Because this seemed really bodied.
Yes, yeah, it became a bit lighter after this.
Yeah, it's
And I don't just mean tone, but just as in, you know, less episodes, less substance, dare I say?
It is interesting. We might get through that, everybody who views. Let us know what you think about this. But here we go. This is Revelation of the Daleks, first broadcast on BBC One, the 23rd and the 30th of March, 1985. Written by Eric Sayward. All the details there for you. Directed by, in my eyes, the legendary Graham Harper, and produced by John Nathan Turner. Wow. So where do we start with this? Who wants to start with? Let's start at the very beginning, as a wise nun used to say. What an opener. What an opener to this show, everybody.
Well, what I like about it particularly, I saw an original broadcast. Yeah, I'm old enough yet. Yeah. And the opening's superb, and it reflects Androzani. And Graham Harper loves that opening. It's a great opening. And I think the snow adds so much to the opening of the story. It looks great. I know it wasn't meant to snow. That's real snow, not fake snow like they do now. But every time I watch this story, I always feel I want to put the heating on or put my coat on. It looks bloody freezing.
I wonder why that. But it actually tied in. Do you remember when it was broadcast originally back then? Yeah, we had all that snow at the beginning of 85 or February 85. And I remember that thinking, oh my goodness, because there was nothing they could do about it, was there? They'd gone on location. It was fine the day before. They wake up and there's all the snow there. Marvelous.
It really adds the sorry.
I was going to say there's kind of a melancholy to snow, I think. So it does just make it, it's a morning planet. They're in morning. You've got snow. It works.
Yeah, it's complete serendipity that it snowed because it looks fantastic.
Well, from a drama point of view, it certainly does. Look at this picture.
Yeah, wow.
It does look very. It's very atmospheric. It's very sci-fi in a way, isn't it? Really, it really does add to this whole thing about being on an alien planet, and it's just snow, and it's real snow. So it just adds all this sort of extra level to this beginning of this story. I love it.
I think when the Doctor's fighting with the mutant and they're rolling through the snow, I mean, the guy playing that mutant must have been frozen, but you can...
Laurence Olivier, you mean?
Yes. You can tell,
and heavy makeup.
Yeah.
How that wouldn't have worked if it had been fake snow. It just wouldn't have worked, would it? But it was completely convincing for obvious reasons because it was real. But yeah, it was like Michael, you said, it was serendipitous. It was very similar to Claws of Axis, really. I think that's the other one that really benefited from weird weather, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And played really well into the story. And I think this did, absolutely. Yeah.
Curse of Fenric, too.
Mm.
Well, that free rain and their snow as well. They wrote it into the story, didn't they, about the whole curse? But this was just a wonderful, happy accident. But I think it's a great happy accident, isn't it? And the way that they actually got round it was just brilliant. Garbage is saying this was a very gory episode. I wonder what he means by that. Cybermatch Strikes like protein. Sadeko 24 is saying, I had my issues with the 80s, but Revelation made it seem the show was really going somewhere by then, finding its groove at last. That ties in with what I was saying about this seemed a lot more bodied, but it found its groove. And then for all the reasons we know in 1985, it lost its groove because it didn't come back as forceful as this, really. It's when you look at it now, this wasn't frightened. Revelation of the Daleks was big and bold and wasn't frightened, and it was drama. And then when you look at what happens from 86 onwards, it's a little bit watered down, isn't it? It's as though they're thinking we can't be that brave anymore. It's a shame.
This is such an adult topic. I mean, dealing with death anyway is a really taboo subject, isn't it? And they've done it once since in New Who, not so well, I think. But this is a really great black humour to it. but it's very adult. And I think the time slot originally wasn't going to be 20 past 5. It was going to be later, wasn't it? I believe that was going to be
there is a rumor, wasn't there, Paul? It was something like 6:30, 7 o'clock or something, wasn't it, for the 45?
Yeah. And I'm surprised they actually didn't get edited before the actual recording of it or the first read through, because it's so dark. In fact, the entire season's so dark. The people upstairs, the BBC, didn't obviously read them or look at the scripts and edit them, because there's so much violence in the season. I love it, but it's like so dark and so adult that nobody bothered checking before it went to production. It's really weird.
Yeah. I think it benefited from that, to be honest.
Oh, it does. It definitely does. Yeah.
And as a kid, I loved it. You know, it wasn't. And as an adult, I love it for the darkness, and as a kid, I loved it for the other things like the Daleks and all that stuff. So, you know, this argument that you can't scare kids is rubbish.
Well, it's an argument that we're battling with today. Oh, yeah, he is. He absolutely brilliant. Just Jordan's with us here saying, this first aired on my birthday, but 5 years before I was born. Haven't watched it in a while, but thought it quite creepy. Okay, I see what you mean there. All right. Yeah, well, it is creepy, isn't it? That was brilliant. And Blue Captain Jackie Stanners, Harper was an awesome director, and the feel of this story was different. It certainly is for season 22 as well, isn't it? Considering, because this is typical Graham Harper. Absolutely superb. It's full-on action from the moment the camera sort of pans in on that photograph of the planet, and the music with Roger Lim. Oh, my goodness me. You're out there, aren't you?
When I was rewatching it, my wife was passing, and she said, have I seen this one? And she was intrigued by the few seconds she saw. You know, it's a great story.
Hello to Mrs. Aberdeen when she gets up. Hello, come back on the show soon. Yeah. Oh, right. Now, Garbage is saying something very interesting here. He wanted to start with Perry, I'm sure. She seems very apprehensive and nervous around the Doctor. I found it a little uneasy watching them as a pairing at the start. What do you guys think about that?
Does he just mean in this story or in the season as a whole? Because that was kind of the idea.
In this particular story, he thinks that Perry's a little bit nervous around the Sixth Doctor at this stage.
I kind of thought at this stage the pairing was really finding its footing, that they'd got this kind of relationship. I think Perry and the Doctor work really nicely in the story.
I think there's still an antagonism between the two, and it really surprises me Perry stayed as long as she did. Because if someone treated me like that, I'd be off.
Yeah, I mean, she gives it back to him, doesn't she?
She does.
Porky.
Yeah.
Porky, I know you wouldn't get away with that today. That would be problematic, wouldn't it?
Well, it's like, you know, we've all got a grumpy mate or whatever, and they say something to you, and you kind of hit back, and it's not that you like them any less. It's just that relationship, isn't it? That dynamic, and I think that's what they've got. She knows he's grumpy. She accepts it. She likes it. You know, whatever. That's their relationship, and I think, yeah. I one of the things I really liked about Revelation on rewatching it was the Doctor and Perry. I thought they were great together.
I agree with you, Phil. I think I didn't get what Garbage was. I didn't pick that up what Garbage was saying there, but you know, I know what he's saying. I thought they were more at ease, and had the series continued without what happened in 1985 happening, of course, I reckon that would have been built on the following year with their trip to Blackpool and the Celestial Toymaker and everything. I think this was actually setting up what was coming in their relationship. I like what Cybermat Striker says here, saying, I personally liked all the violence and darkness in this season. It comes to a head in this story. It's as though it's been building up through season 22 to what happens here in Revelation of the Daleks, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's like Doctor Who's grown up a little bit.
Well, yeah, especially for 5:20 Saturday afternoon.
I mean, it's, you know, you obviously have Vengeance on Varos, which is very much pastiching, I guess, the video nasty era that you're right in the middle of, and you know, things like, you know, the horror films that were coming out at that time, and it's really dwelling on that. And this is Doctor Who going as dark as it possibly can do by talking about death and, you know, eating your relatives and people being turned into Daleks. You know, it's about as grim as Doctor Who gets, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I said about Stengos being a brilliant scene, that bit where he screams for mercy for his daughter to kill him.
Yeah,
and
I want to talk
that's
about that.
heart-wrenching, isn't it? It's dramatic, gory, and really scary, isn't it?
I was just going to say for me. It wasn't so much the violence; it was the unnerving aspects like that.
It's the psychology, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. And the way he flips from talking to his daughter to talking about conquering the universe with his Dalek friends, just the way that the actor does a brilliant job. It was really striking. Actually, that was the scene my wife saw, and she was really taken with it. She said, "Oh, this is good."
The acting in this, possibly because of the directing, Phil, is fantastic. I mean, from the very beginning, Harper sets this up where it's mysterious. You think, okay, we're coming into this and at different points, something's going on. They've materialized in the middle of nowhere. We find that out. We find later on that's for a reason. But when this person turns up, I mean, this is where you just think, what is going on? There's something really going on here. And I picked this up more on this viewing than I did when I was 15 watching it originally, because this was amazing.
Yeah.
The dip the toe a little bit, the horror about death and eating your relatives. The dip the toe a little bit, hadn't they, with the two doctors, with the inference that I think Shockeye had eaten the old woman, and he wanted to eat Jamie, to coin a phrase. So they dipped their toe a little bit. Then they had that little pause for the classic Doctor Who and an exciting adventure with the Bandrills, and then they really went full throttle, didn't they? I said that just to please Phil. And then they really did go full throttle in this, and it was as dark as it could be, but it was, I think, largely fantastic as a result of it.
But it's
not perfect, but really, really, for the era, good. The last time Doctor Who really stuck its neck out, I think, in the classic series.
Yeah, and it's the execution of that subject matter. Can we say the word, the C word, the cannibal word on this? I don't know what YouTube allows.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's the execution of that, because that's a theme that crops up obviously later on with Paradise Towers. Nowhere near the same tone or feeling about it. It's more panto, isn't it? But so I think the execution is key here. And again, it's down to Graham. Graham, what am I saying? Sorry, it's very early here.
Yeah.
It's down to Graham Harper.
For his directing. Yeah, but we've got to mention, of course, Eric Saywood's script here, because this is what this is all about. This is a sequel of sorts to Resurrection, the previous year, but it's actually its own thing. I mean, you don't have to have seen Genesis, Destiny, or Resurrection to come to this, and because we're focusing on Davros as well in this story, because it's mainly a Davros story. His scientific side has come out again. You guys are mentioning here about the whole about you turn them into food. Who saw that coming? Who saw that? I remember absolutely my stomach churning at that point. Oh, in a lovely, joyous way to think, oh my God, it fits Davros, doesn't he? And that whole thing about consumer resistance, that's quite funny.
Yeah, it's his scientific side and his entrepreneurial side.
Yeah. He certainly developed a sense of humor while doing it.
You never get that in Dragon's Den, would you? Let's be honest.
Well, you might just say that. You don't know where it's going to go. You don't know where that's going to go.
We should talk, Paul. We'll talk.
Yeah, sure,
yeah.
Solid script is full of really witty asides and stuff. I mean, when Orsini is
very full.
When Orsini's first meeting Kara, and they talk about the protein, and I think they show some in a perspex content. Yeah, it looks like something you've just fished out of a toilet.
Yeah, it's like poo.
Sideline from Bostock tastes horrible though.
Yeah,
it's like it's saved billions of people. Tastes horrible though. Those little throwaway lines that just make you snigger in the middle of all this goriness.
There's some great lines that when Orsini says he may smell like rotting flesh, but he's an excellent squire. I mean, things like that, fantastic.
That voice.
Yeah. No, it's wonderfully written and presented script, and it looks like everybody understands it and gets on with it, doesn't it? You know, you can't. Well, you can have a go at faulting things, but I'm not going to, because the enjoyment that came from the screen.
Yeah, I can.
Go on, Bedouin, go on.
Take
Yeah,
it away, Bedouin.
go on. God say Bedouin.
So, I mean, my issue with this particular season of Doctor Who is the 45-minute episodes, and I think as a result, this particular story is way too bloated. There's one too many double acts, because you've got, you know, Kara and Vogel, you've got Orsini and Bostock, you've got Lilt and Tarkis, you've got, you know, the Doctor and Perry. Like, there's so much going on, and it's just the first episode's filler, basically. It just, you know, if this was a 4-parter, it would have a lot of that material cut or reduced, or it wouldn't work as a 4-parter, because there's just that first episode is just the Doctor and Perry getting to tranquil repose, and that's not what you want. You want them in the action. You want them, you know, involved. You know, if you go back to Resurrection, the cliffhanger is the Doctor seeing a Dalek, and you don't even get that in 45 minutes, which would be, you know, halfway through a 4-parter.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I just think there's too much going on. I love all the dark elements, the dark comedy, and all that sort of stuff. I think that's great, but as a Doctor Who, it takes ages to go anywhere. But the thing that holds it together actually is Terry Malloy's Davros, as that sort of
Totally.
totally watching and engaged.
Yeah. One thing that doesn't quite come through, which you know, I will criticize here, is the fact that you're right, Bedouin. This is Davros as the spider in the web. He's manipulated absolutely everything that's going around, including the Doctor's arrival, which the Doctor sort of suspects but can't put his finger on. You know, and as we said in the We Love Davros show, I love the fact that Davros has suddenly become, he's more or less just got out of his carbon freeze. You know, he's been released. And suddenly he understands what's going on with the universe. He knows how to send messages through time and space, so certain Time Lords will hear about it and arrive. Although he's never sure which one's going to turn up at this point, because he's aware of regeneration by this point. So it's obviously moved on at some point. He's managed to do, you know, get his feet under the table when it comes to solving the famine issue in this part of the universe. He's become quite powerful, but he's not the Davros we met in Genesis, not anymore.
No.
Well, he certainly believes in more than 5 galaxies, doesn't he?
He certainly does now. He certainly does now. And we've also got to remember at the time as well, this was the first 45-minute episode season, and also at that point, the last. They didn't know what to do with it. They had no idea. And they admitted this years later, both JNT and Saywood. They came out later on saying we weren't quite sure what to do. They knew that Doctor Who thrived on cliffhangers. So they understood that each episode had to have a cliffhanger. And they just didn't know what to do with the 45-minute, really. But there were also, Bidwi, I don't know if you're aware, there were also political issues behind the scenes at this point as well, of course.
Yeah.
And that's probably why the Doctor isn't in it. Well, in fact, we know that's why the Doctor isn't in it, don't we?
The Doctor doesn't meet the Daleks till about an hour into the episode, into the story, which is, as Bidwi said, that's into episode 3 now, almost, you know. So
yeah.
Do you not think that built it up, though? The anticipation of wanting the Sixth Doctor to meet the Doctor. I'm quite, you know, at the time I was like, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? When's it going to? I was enjoying that.
What I did quite like about the Daleks was when that Tarkis and Lilt can call the Daleks up with a minicab service. It's incredible. They just turn up.
The phone got, hello, Dalek service?
Yeah.
We have a problem.
Dalek Uber.
Yeah.
JT, you said that you were saying that the Doctor Who like lived and died on its cliffhangers. But I do think the cliffhanger in this is a bit shite.
Of course. Of course it is.
I found a headstone of myself.
Oh, right. Well, let me just read this out for a second. Simon Streck said, at the time, I think Saywood and Holmes had become mates. You're right there. I wonder how much Saywood was egged on by Holmes, as this season is worthy of a Hinchcliffe high. Oh, totally. Saywood actually, he revered all of Robert Holmes' stuff. He absolutely adored it, and he loved those two characters. You know, the setup that Holmes established with the two characters. So yeah, it's absolutely based on something like that, and he tried to emulate those characters himself. And I think he does well with that. So Phil, your the episode 1 cliffhanger.
Yeah.
It's not quite Dragonfire, but it's nearly there, isn't
it? And then the resolution is, oh, I'm all right.
It's plasticine.
It's polystyrene.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't. What? So Davros built that just in case the Doctor happened to walk through the Garden of Fond Memories or whatever it was called, and then happened to see it. And so, but if he does see it, I'll build in something that drops it on him, but it won't kill him because it'll actually be. I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't stand up to scrutiny, unlike anything else.
Well, is
it known which Doctor it was?
Oh, that's a point.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually thought that as a kid. I thought, how does he know that's what he looks like?
Yeah,
maybe he's got a statue of all of them for different occasions, just in case. You know?
and they're available. And they're available now from Forbidden Planet. So make sure.
Yeah.
Coming out.
Maybe they built the statue very, very quickly when they realised which incarnation had turned up.
Yeah.
That's he's like the mutant. She's like, he's what? He's got a tie. Oh,
yeah. Send the mutant, delay him. I'm going to be another 5-10 minutes.
That's why it was lightweight polystyrene.
He's got the curly hair again. It's going to take a while.
I have to say though, it was a nice statue. When you saw it in the exhibitions back in the day, like Blackpool and stuff, it did look quite good. And in the Blackpool one, it had the blood coming out of the nose still. You know, it was quite good.
Well, the way it's described in the script is
yes. So, just explain what you've got there, Bidwea.
So this is an original copy of the script for Revelation, signed by Colin Baker as well. Basically, so I'll read through a little bit of it because it is quite funny how different it appears on screen. But obviously, Perry turns and sees the fallen statue, screams out, "Doctor!" He turns, but it's too late. The statue hits him and he is buried under its mass. You've got Perry screaming, a high shot of Perry being all frantic. And then you're actually supposed to get interior of Davros's laboratory. And Davros is smiling and then breaks out into helpless bursts of laughter. And Tassenbeaker joins in because, you know, she's being polite. But Davros obviously finds this hilarious. And then back in the garden, there's a close-up of the edge of the statue, and it says in the script, "Blood begins to gush from beneath it." End titles.
That's a bit darker, isn't it?
Yeah.
A bit more dramatic. They obviously ran out of time and money.
Well, I mean, we're saying about how this is, you know, very dark and it's very grim and whatever, but they clearly drew the line at blood gushing out from underneath the statue.
I'm imagining arms and legs.
Stain the snow or something. I don't know.
Well, it's funny. Phil said you didn't like that cliffhanger. I thought it was shite, to use your terminology. But the if you've seen the Australian, Michael, you must have seen the episode 4 version with the really bizarre cliffhangers. You know, they're like, oh look, there's a Dalek.
Yeah,
you know, it's like not very good cliffhangers in general.
Yeah, we suffered. If you thought the 45-minute episodes were bad, but the 45-minute episodes cut in half are even worse because as Phil said, that Paul said, the cliffhanger would just appear throughout that whole season in Australia. So we got them in 25-minute chunks, and credits were done. Everything was all done. I think it was a slightly different font, so you could see the ABC had done it. But yeah, these cliffhangers would just happen. Like as Paul said, they just the most inconsequential thing would happen, and it's like, oh no, 25 minutes, we're out. News time.
That's such a shame, though, isn't it? Because it wasn't meant to be. That season was not meant to be 25-minute episodes. It was put together as 45 minutes. That's why there's a lot of padding in some of of them, as we said earlier.
The broadcast allocation here was 25 minutes on a weeknight, and that's the way it stayed. So yeah, it was a bit of a, and it wasn't really. I don't think it was till the DVD that I saw the proper 45-minute episodes.
Oh really?
Were you blown away by the cliffhanger?
I was. It was amazing.
Nerve shredding.
That's incredible. Well, we still got that in episode 2. So that was still the same. But the other cliffhangers were pretty clumsy.
Yeah.
What it does, though, is it shows what Bedouin was reading there. It just shows the difference between what the writer puts down and what has to happen, especially when you're on location. When you're fighting against the clock, you're fighting against the weather, you're fighting against the timing, the lighting, the lack of money. It does show you that. It's very interesting, though, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, as Phil said, the resolution is pretty rubbish. Not just because you've got a very polystyrene-looking statue falling over, but then clearly the Doctor's having to spend a good couple of minutes waiting for Jobal to shut up before he can
get
up and say, yeah, he's waiting for the perfect moment to say, actually, I'm not dead. I've not been crushed after all. Can you stop flirting with my companion, please, so I can make this dramatic reveal?
Ooh.
And is the resolution the same? Because the blood gushing out is all just part of the set piece, is it?
So there's blood. So yeah, there's a line about the blood on.
Yeah, a little bit of.
Yeah, there's a little bit on the Doctor as he gets up, which you can now see on Blu-ray. It's a bit clearer.
Right.
But and that's why it was still there on the statue when you saw it in Blackpool on display of the exhibition. But none of that comes across at all because we can all tell it's a really rubbishy polystyrene statue.
As it blows in the wind as well.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
I haven't read Eric's book, his novelization, which took a long time to appear, didn't it? In the Target. I haven't read it yet. I must actually get round to that to see how he writes about this particular bit in there, and whether he goes for the version you've just read out, Bedouin, or if he goes for the TV cut version. Obviously, it's obviously cut there. Garbage is telling to us, I like the build-up, but I didn't like the reveal of the Dalek going across the screen with Perry and the Sixth Doctor in the background. It seemed a bit silly to me. Again, that would have been down to what they had to do at the time, wouldn't it?
And again, as a kid, I loved it. I thought it was great. I just remember that, got it here, haven't I? I just remember this mysterious, there's a Dalek, and it's a different color. I mean, I know we'd seen them, but I was excited to see them in that color, which I'm sure we'll get to.
Yeah. And it was Perry that got to see it, not the Doctor, because he would have acted instantly, wouldn't he, if he'd seen that?
I mean, it was a real panto moment. It's behind you.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought it was fun as well. Oh, and this is very clever from Sudeiko. It must have been swiftly produced. Tiny McClive Swift there, of course. Well done. I like that one.
And also very timely for any Australians watching, because all week we've had nothing else but Taylor Swift, and it's driving us insane. Please.
Oh, of course,
leave.
she's down there now, isn't
I
it?
thought the wrestling company had taken over Australia.
The wrestling company? We don't know about that.
Are they just in Perth? Are they?
Maybe just Perth. Yeah, we don't talk about Perth.
Garbage is saying the idea of that was great, but the timing was poor. Yeah, and he's also saying here as well, this is funny, imagine the writing changes that would take place now. Cut, we need more pronouns. That's what happens in the Monday. Fortunately, back in the days when we were a little bit more sensible, we never heard of anything like this nonsense. And just Jordan, I think sometimes the lighter can come across unhinged. So that would have been a big cliffhanger. That's an interesting point. Yeah, that's the one that you spoke about, I think, Bedouin, as well there.
I think if you'd have had Davros reacting to it, it would have added a bit more heft to it. But again, given the fact that they suddenly had snow on location, and that will have made everything in production terms a lot more difficult, a lot more awkward to move stuff around and getting these shots done. Maybe it was just, we just need to film it and do as much as we can and then put it together afterwards.
Well, yeah. Well, that's how television worked then, especially on Doctor Who, because you were always against the clock, and we know that as fans. That the pressure would have been incredible for them. You've got to get.
That would have made things worse. So yeah.
Well, madness they filmed in winter anyway, isn't it? They should have filmed at a better time of year, but they always filmed Doctor Who when it's freezing cold and poor weather conditions, didn't they?
Still do.
Yeah. Well, allegedly, but no, that's all. I mean, that's what it was, wasn't it? But as we said at the top of the show, at this particular point, it helped the atmosphere of the show because of the snowfall that they had. Even when you get to studio, it's not. It doesn't look too bad, this story at all. It's beautifully designed, isn't it?
Yeah, it always works well when it's dark, doesn't it?
It's that you get the feeling because you've got all the snowy exterior stuff. But then when you get in the studio, it does feel like, oh, actually, no, we're in a building now. And that contrast between, you know, the sort of film videotape that we had in the past, we don't have here, because I think it's all on videotape at this point, is it?
No, that's the year after.
No, it's the last one.
But
yeah,
but there's such a contrast just in the set being so much different to the exterior stuff, that it does feel like, okay, we're in somewhere. And then you've got that alternative between the really overlit kind of public areas, and then you go down into the catacombs where it is much darker. And Graham Harper was great at always, you know, keeping the lights down a bit.
There's a lovely touch when they go down to the catacombs with Natasha and Gregory. And I remember seeing an original broadcast. I thought my television was on the blink, because he did that wonderful thing going down, you know.
Oh, yes.
As you go down. And I
This is what the BBC told us.
Holder gone on my television. But
yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
This is why the BBC told lighting directors to always turn everything up, because people think their telly's broken.
It's true. Yeah, it's absolutely true. That's what they used to do. But that bit, but it just showed how clever Graham Harper was as well, wasn't it? Really, like his previous story, Androzani, that took you out your comfort zone, because you actually had somebody talking to you and breaking that fourth wall that they were never allowed to do. And then in this one, he's got all these little visual gimmicks. He's actually got something similar as well with Joe Bell looking up at the camera, where he's talking to the great healer, but you feel like he's talking to you.
Yeah.
And when Tez and Beaker in the lovely shot with the Dalek eye coming. That's a lovely shot.
I don't like that scene. That whole scene gives me the heebie-jeebies. No, because it's like, and I shall allow you to become
a Dalek. I can't wait to talk about Terry Malloy, because I think he's fantastic.
Oh well, shall we talk? I mean, it is a Davros story, and this is our We Love Davros story. You're watching us here at Who's Views. Thank you for tuning in. Nice to see you. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe to the channel and do give us a like. And come into the chat. There's quite a few of you watching us tonight. Come into the chat if you're not into the chat. Come and tell us what you think of this particular story, the last story of season 22 in 1985. It's Revelation of the Daleks. Let's talk about Davros now, because we get two for the price of one here. Now, somebody said to me the other day, why are there two? Well, one's a red herring, love. One's there to be the focal point of the assassin's bullet. I love it. I just love it.
To be fair, though, I think Davros was copying the Borad's homework. But,
see, it all comes back to Time Lash.
Yeah, it comes back to Time Lash.
All roads lead to Time
Lash. Yeah, what these guys are proving here is that Time Lash is actually incredibly important in Doctor Who canon. That's it. There's lots of different reasons.
Of it.
It all started on Carful. But it is brilliant, isn't it? I mean, you know, I love the point that when you first see him in this, you do think this is the effect of the Magellan virus, or I did back in the day. What did you guys think?
It's the same, exactly the same.
Yeah, because that's when we last saw him in Resurrection. In case
I thought it was very effective the way his head just spun on a dime.
Yeah,
it was brilliantly done.
And you know what? I've only just worked out where his shoulders are from that photo.
Have you?
Yes.
Clever effect.
I genuinely only just realised they're in the white bits at the side. How many bloody years I've been wondering about how the hell they got his head up there.
There's always something new to discover in Doctor Who.
So with that,
it's called rewatchability, Phil. That's what it is.
Yeah. This is Revelation of the Daleks from 1985. We're talking about, everybody. Phil's just
mind-blowing.
Where Davros's shoulders are.
I honestly, even because I was watching it on the plane the other night, and yeah, I was thinking, I still can't work out where his bloody shoulders are.
I must admit, it took me a while to work out that effect. I thought, that's very clever. How are they doing
Very
that?
good.
With the music, that sting that Roger Lim does, it's to this day, it's very creepy.
It's really creepy, that whole thing about. And we have to big up Terry Malloy on this, because by God, he worked hard on this show, didn't he?
He's great.
Because he's got the two different Davroses. He's got the one, of course, that starts the familiar looking one, but in this one, he's just in the mask, and he's on a spinning chair, an office chair apparently, and that is
all it was?
Wow, apparently so. I remember hearing him at a convention once, and somebody asked about this. What did they bill for? He went, billed. Nothing. They gave me an office chair, and I had to sit in it, spin round. I think that was true. I'm hoping that's true, Terry.
He does an incredible job with that, because that would be very easy to. I mean, I'd completely mess that up. The whole thing would be wobbling, and that wouldn't be easy. I mean, yeah, but he's proving me wrong right there. I suppose you could. It just, I don't know. There's something where, again, it's the way it's shot. It's the way it's shot.
Yeah, it's lots of energy though, because he does do 360s and stuff, and he's very fast with it, isn't he? We must have had something to hold on to in there as well to keep his balance with the thing. Because don't forget, he's in that mask, and then there's this this set piece, I suppose you call it. It's not really a costume over the top of it,
which goes over his shoulders.
Yes.
What?
Garbage is saying he must have had a headache or at least dizziness. I'm sure he did. And again, he's in a latex mask, everyone. And he's also saying revelation of the shoulders.
It would have helped himself. It would have helped him being a shorter chap, because I mean, I'm 6'5". I wouldn't be able to do that. I couldn't carry it off. I'd just wobble and knock the whole thing over.
Oh, he was brilliant in that. I mean, this whole piece here, it always makes me think, though, to this very day, having rewatched it, though, guys, where's the real one? Where is he at that particular point? If that's not him in the tank, if that's his avatar, if you like.
Well, you showed it earlier. He was having a coffee.
He's in the canteen. That's it. Yeah.
But I just forget. So he's in that tank. He's in that tank. He's got this thing in the tank, being Davros, in case the assassin appears at any point. So he's there waiting for the assassin. So he could have been there for years, as far as we know, in that tank. So where's Real One? What's he doing? What's he up to? Is he the one that's controlling somewhere in secret all the food and everything like that?
He'd be working on the Daleks. He'd be.
It stresses me out. I need to know.
Yeah, it's like Keeper of Traken, where the Master's just got a viewing screen and is watching stuff. I always thought of it like that.
Yeah. At least with the Master, he can move about in his TARDIS, though, and go to his bedroom, go to the swimming pool, go to a cinema. Do you know what I mean?
At least in the Five Doctors, you worked out where Barusa was. Oh, he's in the cupboard there. So
maybe he was actually trying to sort out some James Bond type gadgets.
I always assumed that the real Davros, if I call him that, the real Davros was in a room on his own, but interacting in real time. So when the Davros in the thing was speaking to people, it was actually Davros himself speaking.
It was an avatar
mimicking him. So he was saying exactly what the thing in the tube cylinder thing is saying.
I'm going with that. I like that. I'm having that, Ian. Thank you. That'll do.
That's how I've always reconciled it, to be honest.
How many years is that taking?
There we go.
Thank you for that, Ian. You've put me out of my misery now. That is. I'm having that one. That'll do it. That works.
Copyright whose views?
But the other thing about Terry Malloy is he really is working, and he's mentioned this before, but when you rewatch the episodes, you can see how much energy he's putting into that blooming mask, can't you? Because it's not just static. He's burning while still remembering his lines and talking, and you can understand absolutely everything Davros is saying in this particular 2 episodes. It's sinister in a way, Davros, because he's pointed in his speech. Isn't he?
Wonderful subtlety.
Yeah,
we all know like the ranty Davros kind of stuff, but here it's very low when it needs to be, and it's, as you mentioned, that conversation with Tasambika. It's there's so much creepiness that's not just ranting lunatic. Discussion about resurrection. Where is this the point where he's gone mad? And it's like, actually, no, he can still be quiet, he can still be measured, because it's part of his scheme.
Yes.
Yeah, and when he's in that line, when he's, I'd much rather have your money, he can be a little bit ironic,
And then the chuckle he does as well, that very polite chuckle.
Yeah, that's a new dimension. That's a new dimension. That's
and it's beautifully false, isn't it, Michael? Though it's delivered by Davros himself as and you just know he switched the thing off and I hate that bitch.
Excuse me, there's someone I need to go talk to. I'll be with you.
Yeah. Excuse me, Mr. Dalek. I've got that from somewhere. But anyway, there you go. Go and get her. But I mean, but what you're saying about there, as well, it is beautiful performance this with Terry Malloy's Davros here, because he gets the script, doesn't he? And he understands that in a sense he's the chief one in this, and he carries it wonderfully, I feel. But Davros is so confident because he set up this whole thing. Everybody is playing, whether they like it or not, know it or not. They're all playing his game, and the only things he doesn't see is a little rebellion forming. Well, he's sort of aware it's about, but he thinks he can crush it, can't he? He doesn't realize that somebody's going to pick up the phone to Skaro and go, "Oi, we've got a problem. Come and get it, geezer." You know, he doesn't see that bit going on. No, but even the Dalek, even the Doctor, he's got stuff planned for the Doctor. The Doctor's going to become the first ever Time Lord Dalek.
The Doctor gets the last laugh on Davros when he tries to shake his hand, though, at the end.
Oh, bless him.
I like that.
That is just bizarre, isn't it? Listen to this. Sam Matt Striker is saying, Davros grew a sense of humour. It adds a great dimension to the character. And it's beautifully dark human, isn't it, Cyber Matt Strikes, as the guys are saying there. It's really, really, really alien in a sense as well. Because the Doctor gets it. This particular Doctor gets this humour that Davros suddenly has, as Davros understands the Doctor's humour, which has changed slightly. I think it's beautifully played. There was a point, says Garbage, where Davros said along the lines of, "What is going on here?"
I mean, is that great line when the Daleks?
Oh yeah, I know.
The great,
yeah.
Which line is it, Badouia?
I think it's towards the end where there's stuff going on around whatever his control room is. You know, he can obviously hear explosions or whatever. And I think this is the point where, should we call them the grey and black Supreme Daleks have showed up, and there's all that sort of stuff going on around. And he's like, "What is going on?" Because that's the only thing he hasn't planned for is other Daleks showing up.
His delivery,
not his either.
Delivery of that line. How did you find me? The way he extends the vowels, and he's just. Terry Malloy, I think he's fantastic.
He is, isn't he? I mean, what a performance he gives in these two episodes. And I think that was why it was another element, rewatching it now after so many years not bothering with it, really, of the joy that came through for Revelation, and just discovering it in the age I'm at now, just thinking this is beautiful drama in every session. This is proper BBC drama back in the day when they weren't bloody pandering to people and not afraid to actually say boo to a goose. It's absolutely stunning.
This is why I never get caught in the whole, Michael Wisher versus Terry Malloy discussion. That people, which one do you prefer? Because obviously Michael Wisher, we've said a lot about that, and he's fantastic. But they're so different in a way that Terry Malloy is an evolution of that character, and so I don't sort of compare them. I just say, well, this is what he's like now. And we're seeing new elements to him, given what he's been through, his 90-year hibernation, whatever, all that stuff. They're distinctly different, but yet the same. That I don't know. I just have trouble comparing the two because I love them both.
We shouldn't really, as well, because. Well, sorry, Badouia.
Yeah, you'd call it a character arc now, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the 80s in particular is Davros' story. It goes from him being released from cryogenic, refrigeration, going to tranquil repose and setting up this thing and feeling like he's king of the world, getting captured by the Daleks, and of course he turns that around and becomes the Emperor.
Losing his hand and losing the rest of his. That's why when he came back in the new show, I would have loved to have seen more of a disembodied Davros. I was sort of slightly disappointed he was back in the chair.
Well, that whole
scene, he had the metal hand, which was quite nice.
That was nice. Yeah,
carried that on. But that whole scene where Davros' hand gets blown off by an excellent squire, you wouldn't get that on television today.
No, I'm in trying.
I'm surprised you got it then, to be honest. It's really violent, don't you think?
It was incredibly violent, but obviously JNC let it through because there it is there. It was a shocker at the time. Do you remember, Ian, what you saying?
Yeah.
You saw the fingers on the floor as well. So it wasn't just the shock of his hand being shot off. It was, you still saw the fingers on the floor. It was It was real body horror.
Colin Baker talks about a potential outtake of having a finger up his nose at one point, which I love to see. That'd be great. Yeah.
It is good. Staker24 is saying to us, I think he has to be careful how he crushes the rebellion. It's probably why he tries to get Taz and Beaker to do over Joe Bell so no one knows it was his doing. Again, that whole thing where he doesn't like these people. It shows you, again, it shows you the evolution between Genesis and now. Davros has been around for centuries at this point. And he wasn't that bothered about the people around him, the scientists around him, really, in Genesis. But here he really doesn't want them around him. He doesn't like them. And he's getting ready to turn them all into food, Daleks, or just plain zap them. It's like he's picking them off one by one because he knows their futures at that point. He knows what's going to happen with them. And I think this comes out really, really well because with Taz and Beaker, he exploits the affection that she has for him, doesn't it? And Joe Bell is a horrible character, isn't he? He's really awful. Is horrible. That's a Sayward classic, isn't it? Really, that one.
And he's cruel to her, isn't he? He's really, I would rather run away with my mother.
Which you wouldn't get to say either. He's intentionally cruel, isn't he, Ian?
It's quite hard to watch.
Yeah, it's horrible.
But he gets his comeuppance, and that death scene with the wig coming off is fantastic, isn't it?
Oh, I love that. And when you watch the features as well, Clive Swift said that was intentional with the makeup artist, wasn't it? She wanted his whole world, his whole vanity crushes, and the wig falls off when he's and good, I say, because what a horrible character.
Yeah.
This is another case where I know the actor for a comedy more than I sort of knew him from back. So obviously, I'd seen Keeping Up Appearances, the sitcom in the UK, where Clive Swift plays Richard, the sort of much beleaguered husband, and then to see him as this awful kind of. He's kind of the perfect character in that I don't think there's anybody would sympathise or like with him. He is a truly kind of malignant character. Yeah, it was a bit of a shock for me, to be fair.
And it's very much the antithesis of the Keeping Up Appearances character, isn't it? It's
exactly.
Like Keeping Up Appearances.
He's not the man just doing what his wife says.
No.
But imagine this guy's the other way around, because I was shocked to see. Well, not shocked, but I was interested to see Swift turn up in Keeping Up Appearances after the Daleks, because it showed. Oh, hang on, this guy can also do this, and he was so sort of. His character was so pummeled by his wife, wasn't it? And he was so trudging as a character. And then you go back and watch Revelation, you can see it, all this sort of stuff, hello, ladies. What an interesting guy he was. Cyberman Strikes is telling us here, Taz and Beaker is a grotesque and sad character. What a loser. Sad is the word there, isn't it? Yeah,
Tragic. It's a tragic character.
Poor Ruby.
Oh, Ruby. Oh, Ruby. It's amazing she was still known for playing Ruby in Upstairs Downstairs in 1985. It wasn't it? Even our age group, we go, oh, Ruby. And that was never once said, although it would be today, of course. I'm here all week. But yeah, but the performances from these people playing the humanoids, again, they go for it, each and every single one of them. I want to say hello to Craig. Hello, Craig. Craig Lightowl. Nice to see you. New Sirius Davros' new replacement hand. So why did you never replace his left hand? Oh, you see, our viewers are clever. Thanks for that, Craig. I'm not going to sleep tonight.
There's plot holes in Doctor Who when you really look at it.
Really?
I mean, take time.
Dapple got it right, didn't they?
I forgot how to use that one.
There are some plot holes in original Doctor Who. Sorry, Ian, I'm not talking over you. Sorry.
No, it's all right. I just lost it such a long time ago. Perhaps I'd forgotten how to use it. His left one.
No, I know the feeling.
Maybe you never had it.
Maybe because of his accident. Oh, we're going into
Maybe
other
he
stuff
never
now.
had it.
Maybe it's actually still there, but it's just down there and he can't lift it or anything like that. I don't know. But Craig,
he's fiddling with something under the desk.
He's probably going to move on. Craig, thank you so much for joining us. Nice to see you. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do. But thank you for that. Going to keep me up for weeks now. That particular one. I think it might need to be that one. God. Anyway, yes.
According to Jake, he did though, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, there are back to the characters, the humanoid characters. This is a great ensemble cast, and it shows. They've got this. They know what they're doing. It really comes through to it, and they really, really go for it, don't they? It's absolutely fantastic. And what we've got here, Garbage is saying, and we need to now. We haven't even mentioned the brilliant William Gaunt yet. Again, Phil, I don't know if you know this, but William Gaunt at the time was starring in another BBC One comedy series about a family setting. I'd actually also seen him at this point in a show in the theatre. So when Doctor Who Monthly at the time said William Gaunt was, I got really quite excited because I thought I liked him on the stage show. I thought this is going to be great, and by God, he doesn't disappoint because these two characters are a joy to watch.
I was when I lived in the UK, I got to see him in King Lear with Ian McKellen and Sylvester McCoy, and he was fantastic.
That's right. He was in that big.
No, he was,
wasn't he? Yeah,
I know, because I didn't know, because I was going. I was excited to see. I wanted to see King Lear, but I knew Ian McKellen was in it. I knew Sylvester was in it, and I was pleasantly surprised. It's Orsini. I was so excited,
as Doctor Who fans would. Nothing else.
Yeah.
But the way he comes to this as well. It's. We've never heard of the Knights of the Grand Order of Oberon. Sometimes I think with this story, we were robbed of all these other things. We were robbed of knowing where Davros gets to when the Daleks take him away for his trial. Would that have ever come back? Probably, if they would have stayed in there, and possibly quite swiftly. We were robbed because of the cancellation brouhaha that was going on at the time here, because we never got to see anything really at this level, in my opinion. Again, we were, robbed of a performance that Colin was obviously going somewhere with. But it sets up all these lovely things. The Grand Knights, that would have been an interesting couple of episodes, wouldn't it?
Yeah. We're also robbed of the final line, Blackpool.
Yeah,
because they didn't know it was coming back. But these are Saywood's versions of Holmes characters, aren't they? There's no denying this, guys.
Yeah. There's little comment about Orsini.
There is a kind of nobility and regality to him, which I think when I first saw this story, I thought he was quite a tedious, boring, quite straight character. But watching it, as a much mature man, you kind of accept that's his role. He is this knight, and he is the embodiment of the honor and the code of whatever it is that the Knights of Oberon are sworn to. And it's better. And I like the whole thing about the faulty leg valve.
Yeah.
So it sticks, and he keeps it because it's a reminder of his mortality.
Yeah, it's a brilliant performance.
It's good. Really.
Yeah. We've got this one here from Cybermatch Breaks. Orsini is cool. It made the Doctor Who universe bigger, the whole Grand Order of Oberon. And it did really, because you can now actually get Grand Order of Oberon and Orsini comic strips, believe it or not. You can get those there. And I love the fact... where is it here? Gemma. Hello, Gemma. Nice to see you. When Orsini's fake leg gets blown off, it's amazing. Cleverly done for 1985, eh, Gemma? No CGI needed there. They just blew his leg off.
There's limbs everywhere, isn't there? Really, I think it would have been good seeing a follow up to it. Because the Doctor promised to take the medal back, didn't he? Was that backstory? Orsini had done something that had put him in disgrace, and he was consistently trying to do some big job, for want of a better term, that would redeem him in the eyes of the Grand Order of Oberon. And it'd be brilliant to find out more about that, really.
Yeah.
I love Orsini. I really do.
What a voice.
He'd been excommunicated, but he still lives by the Order's principles and everything, which is great. But to be honest, that is the pairing I would have cut, if I'm honest.
I stand back in amazement.
Wow.
Why? Explain why.
Purely because it doesn't need to be in there. It's just filler. You need to have Tarkis and Lilt, because they are the ones that call the Daleks. You need to have Vogel and Kara, because they are the alternate side of the, or shall we say, the front of house bit of the food distribution service, and the Orsini, and you need to have the two characters that discover Stengos. because that's exposing what's the reality is. Orsini and Bostock, although great, and William Gaunt in particular is wonderful.
Yeah, he is.
Doesn't need to be there. That's the pairing I'd pull.
But you can't have if they're not there, you can't have Davros going to awaken his army and accidentally he puts his hand in a blender and his fingers go off that way. Without Orsini, he's still got his hand.
Yeah, and then what would
that scene?
Kara hires Orsini to assassinate Davros so that she can become the big I am in the universe and be very rich and famous and control all the yicky food, all the protein, doesn't she? So that
she doesn't achieve. So
she doesn't achieve it, but Davros needs the evidence in order just to zap her. And in the end, he doesn't do that. Orsini does that.
Yeah,
and that's quite gratuitous as well, don't you think?
Hey,
it's quite gratuitous when Eleanor Braun gets stabbed with a flick knife. That's quite gratuitous, don't you think?
There's two quite grim stabbings in quick succession. It's it is violent.
Yes, and that again, that's the other thing about it. It's violent in a Doctor Who style because it's an action show. People have talked about this over the years, haven't they? Doctor Who back then was a science fiction adventure drama, so all that's in there. And as kids, we were a bit more resilient than some of the wet wipes that are around today. We were able to go, "Oh, this is just Doctor Who, isn't it? We know it's not true, and next week he's going to be in Keep It in the Family or whatever." It's
well,
fine.
I mean, compared to American stuff at the time, certainly 70s, early 80s, it wasn't violent compared to everything else that was going on.
Although the competition, the A-Team on ITV were killing people, but there was no blood, but
it was violent. It was violent compared to, sorry.
But the extermination effects of a Dalek race, is slightly different to someone, as you say, pulling out a flick knife and sticking it.
But we didn't mind that. We were made of stern British stuff back then. We didn't mind that, No.
There are children watching JT.
It's just like a normal bus ride in London these days.
Today it is, yeah. But the brilliant thing was that we knew that this was fantasy. We just knew that. I mean, you've got the Doctor there, you've got Davros, you've got the Daleks. You knew it, but as soon as the Daleks turn up, you knew people were going to die in this. It was. I don't know. I think we were absolutely going, yeah, come on, get them. Yeah, you can keep scoring. They're actually saying there's another one. Oh, another one. Oh, another one. Because they drop like flies, don't they? Especially
Eric Staywood script.
The only kid I can vouch for watching it was myself at the time, and I was 10, and the violence never bothered me. And I was not into violence. I didn't like gory films or anything like that. I wasn't into it, but it just never bothered me because it was just part of the jeopardy. I don't know. I think kids are more resilient than people think.
If it got repeated now, there'd be a trigger warning before it went on.
Well, I mean, there'd be a trigger warning about that. Let's be honest.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
What are you saying, Ian?
Yeah.
It was. I can't remember.
Good point.
It was fascinating, but
good point, Ian. We're taking your calls. Make sure.
I mean, for those of us that got through comprehensive schools in the UK in the 80s, we were made of stern stuff. I'll tell you.
That's the other thing. School was rougher than.
We had proper John Craven's newsround to tell us about the world, and that didn't preach to us at all. It said, "Right, this is what's going on. Sit down, kids, and grab a helmet."
It was the beatings I got at school for watching it that were more scary than
Oh yeah. Garbage thing here. My favorite Christmas Doctor Who episode is Voyage of the Damned. So to see Clive Swift here in Resurrection was great and a complete surprise to me. I thought he started off very camped and turned out he was a womanizer. Yeah, I mean, that's the alien quality to this as well, because believe it or not, I actually think there's quite a bit of camp in this particular episode. Not pointing the finger at anybody.
Fair point.
These two are... What? These two are flirt-rageous.
Yeah.
They are flirt-rageous. Again, Badweer, this is 5:20 on a Saturday night, and I remember at the time thinking... Those two are having it off there. Those two are getting it. It never was. It was the fact that Do you know how difficult it is to get good secretary? That was it. He was doting on her, wasn't he?
Well, that look he gives her just before he drops is brilliant. That kind of look of "I love you" and he dies. That's fantastic.
I thought that was sad, Phil.
Yeah.
No, that made me laugh out loud on the plane.
It's brilliant.
Because I think there's some really panto exterminations in this, and there's some people that really go for it. And then it goes on for ages, and then there's suddenly this, and then he falls. And it's like, Jesus Christ.
Dramatic pause.
Yeah, it's like, is he being paid by the minute? Like, if he can get an extra minute, there's another £3 here.
Well, it's got my favourite lines. I get Carry On from line. I've got here, I'm a past master of the double entry. That's fantastic. That's great.
They must have had fun with some of that dialogue. It's there, isn't it? It's hidden, but it's part of the humour of Revelation. If you look and if you listen to it, you can see all these very camp or very funny or very dark humour lines coming through. And I just think that's what makes it work. And to set it all in a funereal home where they're all wearing this get-up. I mean, this blue stuff. And if you notice there, looking at the beginning of the photo here, the line there, I recognise that actor. Can you see him? I can't remember his name.
Which one?
I recognise him from the one here at the very front on the right-hand side. He looks familiar to me. So if anybody in the chat can tell me that actor's name, he was in various comedies in Britain and various dramas, and I can't remember his name to look him up.
Almost
it's probably on the cast list somewhere. I was a bit lazy there. But here we are. It's all based around this. Even the funereal home is slightly camp. You've got to wear black gloves, and they've got all these big peacock feathers coming out everywhere. I mean, it's like a gay disco from 1989 for crying out loud. Well, it's absolutely bizarre.
Well, I don't know what's camp about Alexei Sale.
That's my issue.
That was a showstopper, wasn't it?
I loved him because I was a big fan of. I was a big fan of the young ones at the time and loved him in that, and I thought it was great to have him in this. He gives a great performance eventually.
That is such a bitchy thing to say.
But didn't he say in rehearsals they couldn't do the performance in rehearsals, and J&T and Graham Harper were up in arms thinking he's not going to deliver, we'll have to recast, blah blah blah. And then he did it when the light went on, and he was perfect. And his performance is wonderfully over the top. It's brilliant.
You can understand why he was as one of those actors that was conserving the energy for the light, can't you? Because what comes through from this character, I remember at the time at 15 being horrified by this character. I have to be honest. And then getting back to see him again now, it is deliciously over the top. And again, it's part of this wonderful thing about Revelation, where this character is playing records to the dead. We're almost like that in society now, quite frankly. We're getting there, really.
And
he's a bit like a Greek chorus. He's kind of telling the stories that goes on, isn't he? A little bit, you know.
That's the other bit. He's acting as a sort of narrator. The lady in distress is coming this way.
I just found it all grating. And I was a fan of the young ones too. So, like, you know, I was brought up watching the young ones with my dad and stuff. So that's where I knew Alexei Sale from. And so I think as a younger guy, when I was probably closer to the young ones in linear time, I kind of forgave him because I saw him as being that kind of comedy guy. But nowadays, he just annoyed me a little bit. It was just that little bit too far for me. I appreciate he's bored and he's trying to entertain dead people, so he's got no one to listen to. I think his role is important because he does help carry the story on by saying, look, there's body snatchers in case you hadn't realized what they were. But I could have done with probably 80% of the DJ. I didn't. So
you would Davros, Phil, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
But the point is, at the time, I think the majority of fandom was Davros at that point. You know, destroy that. Get rid of the DJ type thing.
That prattling DJ off.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, there's one good bit I quite like about it. This is the bit I like where he actually gets this sort of solid rock and roll and destroys the Dalek. That's not camp in any sense of the word.
But
I think we've got to remember. Sorry, Michael. Go on.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say. I think. Oh, we're doing that thing that people do in streams.
Okay, Ian goes first. Ian, you go first, and then Michael.
I think we've got to remember that Tranquil Repose, they weren't just all dead. Some were in suspended animation.
That's
true.
I
think those are the ones that he was talking to keep them up to date with events and entertained. not that they would probably be aware, unless they were like Davros when he was in suspended animation and he was conscious all the time. I don't know, but he was converting the dead into protein, wasn't he? And some of them were in suspend because the DJ referenced one particular one whose wife had sent a message to this oh so terrible disease that had taken him away, and he was in suspend. Wonder what she's doing with the money because they found a cure 40 years ago. So they're not all, but again, wonderful script.
Sorry, that is in the promo, isn't it?
George, by the way, everybody. What happened to George? We want to know that. Eric, if you're watching, what happened to George, the DJ's mate down the bins? Where is he? Did he get turned into a Dalek? Was he on another planet? What was going on? Please write in whosviews1@gmail.com. What are you saying? No, Michael, your turn now, and then we'll go to Phil.
I was just going to say, often the new series is accused of being a bit silly, and people say, well, the original Doctor Who was silly, had silly characters, and this is an example of a silly character in the original show, but it doesn't undermine the jeopardy of everything around it. I think that's the difference. That was the only point I wanted to make.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. What were you going to say, Phil?
It wasn't worth the wait, was it?
I was just going to support Ian's point that actually when he does film that promo, he does say that, he's keeping the suspended people up to date so that they awaken, aware of current events. So, but then Perry sees that and thinks, oh, he's a genuine American. I'd like to go and see him.
And she would know. She would know.
And she would, because she's an actual American.
Yeah. What would the American be doing there? Oh, bless her.
Yeah,
but can I?
We're
doing. I'm sorry, I'm doing it again.
No, but to go back to my earlier point, the DJ is filler.
The DJ is filler.
Yes. It's just padding out of these 45-minute episodes, and that's the bit I struggle with.
I'm actually surprised they never got a real DJ to play the part, like Mike Reid or Noel Edmonds or someone more sinister at the time. But
Kenny Everett.
Yeah. So
they probably would have said no. Let's face it, everybody, because they, to play something similar to themselves. But the fact that, what he's done here, what Alexei has done here, he has parodied that whole famous thing that we were all, our age group, were sort of rebelling against, that old smashy and nicey type stuff at the time. Do you remember? Because this was coming at a time when Radio 1 itself was actually also shedding DJs in a very similar way, in a cult to what they're doing today. Really, the changing of the guard was coming in the 80s, wasn't it? Really, and Alexei was actually, because of his comedy background and the changing of the guard in the comedy, he sort of played it as a sort of old-fashioned, yo-yo mates type thing, wasn't it? It's an interesting performance. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Can I ask, are the songs different on the DVD or the Blu-ray because of
they have to be now? They have to be for copyright reasons. They are slightly. I actually, because we all, of course, would have recorded it on C90 tapes back then, audio tapes, and listened to it.
I had it for years on videotape. Yeah.
Well, you hear it now. When you watch it back now, you go, "That's not the right track." Oh, damn! And you just remember because you're expecting a certain cue to come in, aren't you guys?
Yeah, because I never had the commercial VHS. I only had my home recorded ones with the 25-minute installments, and then I got the DVD, and it was quite a contrast, as I said earlier. Garbage
is saying it's probably based on Kenny Everett, probably without the drag. That would have been brilliant. Oh, sorry, no, that's actually going to be happening. And Ian is right, says Cybermite Strikes. DJ's supposed to be entertaining the suspended. DJ knows there is a dark secret at the heart of tranquil repose. Then why the hell is he there? I'd be on the first shuttlecraft out, wouldn't you guys? This job isn't working out. There's a creep in the crypt. Bye.
There's a creep in the crypt, which was the working title, I think.
Yeah.
And he knows the great healer doesn't like him. He knows that. Why are they still there? What's going on with these people?
There's a battle between the two. Alexei Sale's constantly winding him up, isn't he? So it's like he's really getting at him. He's really niggling at him, don't you think?
Yeah. Just to remind everybody as well that this is reviews here on Who's Views. So Skulls on the TARDIS Doors is part of this show, and we will be doing it towards the end of the show. So start thinking how many marks that. Don't put it in the chat yet because I'm not ready for you and I can't keep up with you. So when I say actually later on, put it in the chat then. Out of 10 for scores on the TARDIS Doors for this story. So the DJ there as well. I do want to mention this particular lady as well, if I may, everybody, because she's brilliant in this. Eleanor Braun. Again, I mean, look at this cast. These are names that your average Joe Bloggs punter who happens to come across it. And we have to say as well that they did for this story, because this got very good ratings. This was huge, you know, and it did so well with the audience appreciation. And I think part of that is the Daleks, Davros, and then this cast, including Colin and Nicola, that were in it. But this lady's just delicious, isn't she? She's just brilliant in this, isn't she? Oh, yeah.
Yep. No one's disagreeing with that.
No, yeah, she's great. She's absolutely great. She's glamorous. She's duplicitous. I think. Yeah.
Oh, that was a good word, Phil. Say it again.
Thank you. I've been duplicitous. I've been practicing that all week.
I'm sure he has. But yeah, I mean, even though Badouia is saying, you know, about these particular characters in there, I think the way she's doing this one, and the fact that she does hire Orsini to go and get Davros to do her dirty work for it, it just shows you they may not particularly like it, but this is a very strong part for a female role, isn't it? Really,
do that.
I was thinking that earlier, and her secretary is, you know, a male, which is, you know, at the time bucking the trend in the commercial world.
Yeah. Well, you didn't get many male secretaries in 1985 at all, did you? It wasn't heard of at all. Just like you didn't get male nannies at that particular point. It started to all come in the 90s. But here's Doctor Who in 1985 saying hello. And to have the other way around, where she knows that Vogel likes her, and she's not quite sure. I get the impression that she's sort of, you are my secretary. And it would come across, even if she would just use him for the old Madam Nurse, wouldn't she? You know.
Is it just me? When I watched it today, I got a feeling that, is it set around about the same time as Androzani? I know it's made by the same director and the same composer for music, as it's a similar feel to it. But could it be set at the same time as Androzani, you think?
Oh, here he is with his deep questions. It could actually be, though, couldn't it? It could be all part of that element of that part of Doctor Who, the universe there. It could be, who knows? I mean, Necros could be as part of the whole Androzani setup there, because even the set designs are very similar, aren't they?
Yeah.
The commercial etiquette feels very similar, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I love that about this. I mean, you get that whole thing set up in the Bob Holmes story, and then Saywood has taken this on into this as well. So you must have loved that when you got the Case of Androzani scripts coming through saying, hang on a minute, there's businesses involved with this. And I know what you mean, Paul, as well, because even the set to, and let's show that bit again, the set to her office, it does have that consistency, doesn't it? It does feel very familiar.
Yeah, it's very like Morgus's office as well, isn't it? Very similar, yeah.
Yeah. I love this when we get together as fans, because we can talk about silly little things like this, can't we? And no one's going to judge us.
They do have similar.
They'll be judging us, don't worry.
They'll be judging us. Yeah.
They do have similar technology, because with Morgus's office, he's talking to Chelak, and he walks round the 3D image of Chelak talking to him, and they do similar in this. So it could be, and the fighting people, the humans, they all have standard ballistic weapons still. So I suppose it could be. There's a lot of. Definitely a lot of similarities.
Yeah, it'd be nice to. It would be good to ask Graham Harper if he saw anything like that in there. I've never actually done that. I've met him twice. I can't remember. I never actually said anything like that because I was too busy going and saying, "I love you. I think you're brilliant." Frank is here. Hello, Frank. Nice to see you. He said he interviewed Graham recently. He's a lovely man. Did he mention anything?
Did you ask him by any chance?
Yeah.
I believe he was shocked at what time of the evening these episodes actually went out, given how violent they were.
I'll bet. Yeah.
I've heard that because, as we said, though, season 22. Oh gosh, I mean, it was. We all know the stories around it, but it was held up as how not to do Doctor Who, which is outrageous when you look at it now. You know, it really is, because this is how you should, in a sense, do Doctor Who, because the evolution was there for the show, and look what we got for the final 4 years of the show's life. Not criticizing it, but it was totally different in feel and production, wasn't it? But this is, as I said at the top of the show, this is a fully fledged, right on, hard hitting drama. This is Doctor Who with a real spin on this. This is amazing stuff. Garbage is telling us here it got good reviews, quite rightly so. So this looked really good cosmetically, and luckily it had a great script and story too, with some top-notch actors and perfect recipe for great entertainment. Oh, that's good. Isn't that good? That's a good comment there. Well done, you. I want to say hello to TARDIS Travels as well. Hi, TARDIS Travels. Yeah. Who was saying something there? Sorry, I missed that.
No, I just said that was a really lovely summary. I think if you had to summarize make the reaction in 2 sentences.
Good night, everybody.
Robbie just did it.
I've actually got this little picture of Graham Harper on set. I don't know if you've seen this before, but there he is on the set with the guys there. I loved this, what I call Davros's lair. I love this set as well because it's very Doctor Who of its day, even though it is reworking certain props on the wall there from stock. I don't mind it because it looks absolutely stunning and it's very atmospheric.
Yeah, the statues and all that. And
I think what's interesting about Graham Harper, and it comes across in the studio footage for Androzani as well. At the time, it was frowned upon to be on the floor. You meant to be in the gallery directing, and he was down on the floor working with the actors and trying to get more from the performances and the shots from the camera crew. And it really shows that kind of filmic technique he uses rather than being stuck in the gallery and going through a middle person. And it comes across in the final product. I think it's so much better doing that.
Oh, I agree.
Very filmic director too.
Yeah.
Well, it shows, doesn't it? I mean, he was even involved. Thank you for TARDIS Travel, 7.4 and 7.7 million. I mean, it just shows.
Wow.
Well, at this particular point, that's at 5:20 on a Saturday night in March. You know, amazing stuff. And this is after the announcement. Yeah, well, no, this is after the announcement, of course. A few weeks after the announcement that the show is coming off air. And so people have gone to see this. To see, you know, I anyway, totally different show. I just don't understand any of it really. Looking back at it now, I just think, my God, what a huge mistake. But thank you for that, TARDIS Travel. It's nice to see you. What else we got? And we've got all that. I can't remember where I was going now.
I wonder how they would inflate those ratings, because technically they should take into account everybody that's watched it on iPlayer since, and those that recorded it at home on video and watched it again. It's probably at least 87 million.
At least.
Can't help yourself.
It's such a shame that we don't have the figures for the VHS when that was first released, because it was
I played it a few
remember
times.
part of a tin with Planet of the Daleks.
Planet of the Daleks, yeah.
And I know it was at number 1 in the R Price and Virgin charts for weeks, because it was always at number 1 when you went in the doors. And well done, Doctor, well done. You know, because it was off the air by the time it came out, and I was always impressed. The tin's still there. You know, happy days on that one.
I don't think ours was released like that. I think we got it individually, because I didn't get
probably
VHS I missed, but I had Planet of the Daleks, so they must have been separate.
Yeah,
it was lucky as well to get repeated in '93, wasn't it? As part of the 92-93 season,
which is when I would have first seen it.
Yeah, you would have seen it then, Phil. Yeah, because it was that age group. But I remember hearing about it at the time. It wasn't a fuss as such, but I remember some people saying, "Oh, this Dalek story had been on." It was in 4 episodes, wasn't it? The repeat as well, to fill in those 4 weeks. And I remember some people I was working with at the time saying, "Oh, it was fairly scary for my kids," and I'm thinking, "Yes, good, good. That's what we want to hear." Because it was years after the event by then, wasn't it? And you said, "Yes, I remember this." I do want to talk about. Go on, Phil.
Sorry, can I just tell you the one thing that I remember from seeing it first time, and on subsequent viewings, it still creeps me out a little bit, is when Stengos's head is in that glass Dalek, and then his teeth are like a piece of metal, and then there's just like one tooth.
Yeah. I thought that when I watched it.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. It creeps me out somehow.
I love that scene for those reasons. It's just horrific, and
the makeup's amazing for that, isn't it?
Yeah. It's brilliant, but
it's the brain twitching away on top.
Yeah. God, I wish they'd do a figure of that. I really do.
Well, the twitching brain. Yeah.
Well, you never know.
The glass Dalek with the thing inside it. You know, great.
You never know, because if you haven't heard, B&M.
They've got that. They may as well stuff.
There's more B&M character option figures coming this summer, and one of the apparently alleged sets that's coming out is a Davros special set. So we'll wait to see what's in that one. But wouldn't it be great if they had the filled-in glass Dalek from Revelation there? You could just get one of the normal figures and hang them out and stick plasticine on it, can't you? And stick it in there.
The one Bedouin just held up there, you could just have a.
Well, that's the invisible Dalek from Planet of the Daleks. They could do
you could have something inside it.
JT, I've got an interesting fact for you at this point relating to the Dalek.
Go ahead, mate.
This glass Dalek that's in Revelation allegedly was inspired by the glass Dalek that's going to appear in the Daleks in '64, but they couldn't do it in that version. It was too expensive, and that inspired potentially one that's in Revelation, allegedly.
Oh.
Well, there you go. I can also confirm that it wasn't glass; it was plastic, because when it appeared in the Blackpool exhibition, it had a piece of blue sticky tape on it where it had cracked.
Yeah, it was perspex.
And
cheap.
It was everybody cites remembrance, but this is the first time the Daleks levitated.
Well, no, not a Dalek. It was the man himself.
Yeah.
No, but no, the scene with the Dalek. I mean, they used the
In the
seventh
laboratory,
model.
yeah.
They
Oh,
used
in the
the seventh-
laboratory, yeah.
They didn't pull it off as well, but it was meant to be hovering. I mean, Bedouin, you've got the script there. You can see the Sevens model just sort of attempting to hover.
It was this bit though that made me realise that should they ever be coming back, they would be hovering. I mean, I mean, I don't think it comes across with the glass Dalek turning into the white Dalek. I don't think it comes across well. That I think it's just getting bigger. It looks like it's getting bigger. So I've never assumed it's hovering, but this bit, that's what got me. I thought, okay, it's not done brilliantly here either, as you can see. The CSO is awful, but that's when I thought, this is it. Now we're on the way to flying Daleks.
But apparently, weren't they going to do it on location outside with Orsini and Bostock, but they couldn't get the equipment up to the location because of the snow, and they were going to do some kind of catapult thing to make the Dalek fly, doing like that. But you have to get the bit in the chase, surely, on Iridius when it flies across the sand. That's the first time, isn't it? I'll get my coat. It's like,
yes, probably.
I mean, how else does it get up the steps on the Mary Celeste in the chase?
Exactly.
I mean, they do. We're talking about on screen, aren't we? You know, and I mean, we've known for decades that the Daleks were always flying around. It was in the comics, for crying out loud, which are canon.
Exactly,
So I say, and that's it. Just Jordan is saying here, my uncle tells me how he used to hide behind the sofa when the Cybermen came on. What's wrong with being scared? Good question. Absolutely nothing. I think it's vital for kids myself, just Jordan. I think it keeps them healthy when it comes to the old this here. If you're not frightened about something, then how can you know emotion and all this sort of stuff? And I think it did none of us any harm, really, you know, all growing up.
Looking at the six windows.
And the glass Dalek scene was uneasy to watch, but very good, says TARDIS Travels. Again, it's that atmosphere, because it's the lighting again, isn't it? It's dark and red. How much more scary can you get? That sort of pulsating red. Ooh, very Dalek-y, actually, and harkens back again to Genesis, except it was green there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Showing the difference. Absolutely fantastic. Right, what we got there? Oh, what's this? Yes, TARDIS Travels is just saying to us about the Colin Baker statue. It was Doctor Who exhibition in Blackpool, yeah. Absolutely, it was. I do want to actually just mention, now that TARDIS Travels has mentioned him, let's talk about Colin. Now, we mentioned this in our Davros show, and I get I'm going to mention it again here because it's relevant to the story. But I love the brief time that these two get together. I love every single moment of this, because I absolutely believe that Davros is looking at this Doctor in a different way he did to the fourth and the fifth.
Yeah.
And I think it's wary of this one.
As we said in the Davros show, he's the one that's going to kill Davros, so you better be careful. Yeah.
I think Davros is aware of that for some reason. I mean, when you're getting somebody that's coming along in that outfit, you've got to be a little bit wary of them, surely. But, you know, the fact that this one is, I mean, the Doctor comes in, he waltzes in, I see you've been busy, and automatically takes complete control. Orsini's there, who he's had a run-in with, doesn't matter. Several Daleks around him, doesn't matter. There's this guy that he's known for eons, sitting there. He understands now that he's been part of a plan, and he's not happy about it, is he, the Doctor? And Colin's performance, as usual, it's big, it's confident, and Colin gets the whole thing about the Doctor and Davros. He knows his stuff. It's brilliant.
And
Colin's loving every minute of it, isn't he? Don't you think?
Oh God, yeah.
And it's very different to the way he was introduced to Peter Davison's Doctor. You know, he was at gunpoint when they met. So you know, he I guess didn't have the upper hand as much. But yeah, there's a different posture and a different gravitas there, and Davros can see it.
I love this, and it's as though Terry is actually understanding this and playing it slightly different. And I just love the fact that he's coming across going, actually, this one is different. There's a behind the scenes shot here, which I really quite like as well. getting that horrible. Because if you notice when Davros appears, the mouth is slightly black. But the performance between these two, it's so strong. And as Badwi was saying before, it comes late because this is the Doctor's hardly in this and all that.
Yeah,
it's worth every minute though, because it's action packed from the moment that Colin walks through as the Sixth Doctor. This is what we've been waiting for, and by God, for me, it pays off. What do you guys think of that?
It's a shame it's only the last 15 minutes, though.
Yeah, I agree.
It really does. It's a dangerous Doctor, the Sixth Doctor. You know, you've got the whole pushing people into acid on Vengeance of Davros and all of this sort of thing. Did they fall? Did they push? It's not for me to say. But this is a Doctor who does these darker things. This is a Doctor that could kill a man, and yeah, and it pays off in that scene with Davros. And I think as well, I know we don't mention Big Finish a lot, but there's some great big finishes with Colin and Terry.
Yeah,
as well.
Colin is
is very good. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And Colin is so good. He's just, and the chemistry between them. And, you know, I don't know how well they knew each other before Attack of the Cybermen, but there's a chemistry there. You can feel it.
Yeah. And I think that's because Colin understands. He knows who Davros is because he would have watched Genesis. He may have even gone and watched Peters the year before because he's hinted at conventions and stuff. He actually did watch some of those episodes leading to him coming in, which I quite like, actually. I wonder what he was saying about Davis and I got your job, mate. You know, I don't know, but he understood this. When Davros comes along, it's just there. You know, I see you've been busy, and that whole bit where the Doctor realizes you turn them into food. There's something magical about how Colin does that, and I think this is the alien aspect that he wanted to always portray and bring out, because he's disgusted for a second, all in a day. What's next? I've got to stop you.
But then he's angry. Then he's angry. Did you bother to tell any of them they'd be eating their own relatives? You know, he's angry.
But he gets over it very quickly, though, doesn't he? In the sense, like, right, I've registered that remark now, but I'm getting you now. I've got to do something to stop this now because this isn't on. But he's not grieving about this after that. He's not. He's not thoroughly shocked. Like you could see somebody like, for example, the Fifth Doctor, the 10th maybe, going to bits over that. But the Sixth is right. That's a fact. That's what you've done. I can't do anything about it except stop it. Do you know what I mean?
The 10th Doctor will do a monologue apologising to all the inhabitants of Necros, probably. Yeah.
Broadcast over it.
So sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dako was saying to us here, it's actually a shame Colin and Davros didn't have another confrontation on screen. Oh, isn't it just? Isn't it just? If they carried on, if that blooming political BBC hadn't stopped the show, I reckon we would have got that last part of the Sayward trilogy, and with Colin as well, because we were robbed of that. I know they had an attempt in Doctor Who Monthly, but it would have been wonderful to see it with Baker and Malloy again with that. You know, it's one of these things especially when you're watching it, because there it is at the very end, that beautiful ending when the Grey Daleks come in and the music goes up like this. Davros is going off on one. It's set up, isn't it, for a sequel? And you just think we never got it.
Phil mentioned, you know, how good Colin is on the audios. Terry Malloy is fantastic as well. He comes across. He's a really great. His mic technique is brilliant. He really works it, doesn't he, as Davros?
Well, that bit where the Daleks are leading him away to back to their spaceship, the Grey Daleks there, and he's peddling his Dalek face around those narrow things, and he's really working. He's got the hand disappeared as well. It's all done with the head and the neck. It's beautiful performance.
He does get some serious drift, though, doesn't he, as he's being led away? He skids around a bit and goes.
Yes.
That did make me chuckle a little bit.
He's got a bit of a Buffy boy in him at that point.
You expect the bumper car guy to come in and jump on the back and say, turn the wheel.
Yeah. But it's such a shame because in the garbage has just read my mind here. In the continuity of the series, Davros never met the Sixth Doctor again, because when we next see Davros, you have changed again, is what he says. Such a shame, because somewhere in my head, I would have liked to have had the Sixth Doctor going, I'm having you at some point, mate.
Yeah.
I don't like you. And having that whole battle with him, you know?
So that's from Remembrance, where he was the mum deodorant, wasn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely. It absolutely was. But I just want to say huge big ups to both Colin and Terry for those scenes where the two of them are there. I could watch that scene and have actually over and over because it's just beautiful. Yeah. And you've got some of the players coming back here. I mean, watching this as a 15-year-old, when those grey Daleks appeared, I was like, "Ooh, this is bring it on!" You know.
And this leads into the Civil War of Remembrance. It's tremendous.
Yeah. I know. I love. I have to say, I love white Daleks. I think they're fantastic. Doesn't mean I'm a one of them. I can just imagine the complaint comments. Oh, of course, they would like the white Daleks. No, I like all Daleks, but I particularly like this design, the gold and white. I just think it just works so well.
I think they do. Yeah.
And the new molds with the the new fender and all that.
They do look gorgeous. One thing that irritates me is the neck bit that's a bit too high. That annoys me.
Yeah.
These ones are slightly taller and less flared at the base, but I like them in Remembrance. I like the sort of gold plungery bit at the very end. But I'm with you. I think
it's striking. It's different, isn't it?
Yeah,
I got to meet one of them and JNT at the Edinburgh Book Festival in 1985, I think it was.
Oh, yes, right, yeah.
And he came up on the train to the festival, and I got to meet JNT and the Dalek there on location at Charlotte Square. It was lovely.
Yeah, because I remember that because back before they got on the train down in London, they did, as a JNT would, a photo call with the Daleks getting on the train.
Yeah,
and they had Doctor Who satchels on their plungers, if you'll pardon the expression.
That's right.
We are going to Edinburgh. Absolutely. And so JNT to say, "Ooh, can we get some press out of a Dalek on a train?" Yes, we can.
Yeah.
It wonderful.
But after so many years of grey Daleks in colour, I mean, that's all it had really been, of various shades of grey. To see these bright white and gold Daleks was such a treat for a little kid like me.
Well, I think for all of us, I mean, I was 15 and I loved the color palette. Immediately seeing them, thinking this is different. But as you're saying that, it set up what was to come, and it's just such a shame that we didn't get that final say with resolution. Really,
resolution.
There's another arc. There we go. Well, it probably would have been really going on the theme, but it would have been, epic. I think to say, right, how did he get to trial? What was the Doctor involved with it? Did he get whatever happened? How did Davros get out of that to become the Emperor? Something big went on there, and we'll never know.
Wasn't there a fan stage show called The Trial of Davros?
Yeah,
there was.
Yeah,
there was. And if you saw it in the chat, let us know. Or if you're watching this on playback, put it in the comments. What happened in it? Did you see it? But it would. Can you imagine the BBC having to do that or doing something like that to get that story out there? I just think Mr. Grade and your team there, you've upset us. Even to this day, it's so.
Oh, it was tough, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
I have to say though, those golden Daleks, I mean, yes, they were quite striking. I personally prefer the darker Planet of the Daleks, Genesis of the Daleks is.
Oh yeah.
That was different from Resurrection and the dark ones here. It was a noticeably different, all darker.
Yeah.
But in this, they were startlingly different, which I suppose was the point. But the voices were bloody awful.
Yeah.
It's zippy, isn't it?
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's no modulation.
That good, but yeah.
Did they not decide because they were human Daleks to make them sound more human, which doesn't really work, does it?
No, I don't know why. If it was a conscious decision or not, but I wasn't that impressed with the driver, to be honest, or in Resurrection. But they just never seem to get them quite right for me.
Yeah, they've probably just got the dial wrong, haven't they? Really. Whereas now, of course, you wouldn't do that. It wouldn't be allowed now. But it's interesting to see, though, that to say here as well, we've got TARDIS Travels saying white is a colour that's associated with good. Yes, we prefer the gunmetal grey. The brilliant thing about the gunmetal greys and that sort of stuff is that they can come out the darkness for a Dalek with strength and with intent, like the one behind Ian there as well. It looks really, really good, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It looks like
And I didn't think they were sort of necessarily better, but it was just a nice contrast and something new. You know, that was what was.
Absolutely. Dalek, I love you. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. The assassin is psychic reminded me of Blackadder and Baldric. Thank you for that. Yes. The penny's just dropped for me on there, Dalek, I love you. I was thinking these two remind me. It's the look of them, isn't it? That's where it is. Thank you very, very, very much for that. Yeah.
When Orsini machine guns that Dalek and it blows up, it's a hell of an explosion, isn't it? They've really put. You can see that's Graham Harper. He said, stick a few extra cans of petrol on that.
Really been on location.
Yeah.
They're
all coughing and spluttering afterwards, aren't they? A bit there.
Absolutely. Listen, everybody in the chat, we are going to be coming up to scores on the TARDIS doors in just a few moments. So start putting your scores out of 10, please, for Revelation of the Daleks into the chat. This is where I get inundated, hopefully. So yeah, start putting them into the chat now, because the guys are going to be telling us what they think about Revelation of the Daleks out of 10 in just a few minutes. Thank you. Great. Brilliant.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go on. Put it on a postcard.
Frank Cronague, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, mentioned the Laurence Olivier situation.
Yes.
Was that true, or was that just an urban myth?
Go on.
So I think J&T approached Olivier's agent because they heard on the grapevine through, was it Gone Granger, who was played Stevenson and Mark of the Rani, that they were working at the National together or something like that. And he'd mentioned he was a Doctor Who fan, and J&T thought, yes, I'll phone him. But he politely declined, apparently.
He politely declined.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But he was playing the mutant. That was the thing, wasn't he? And it's not much of a big part for Olivier. He'd probably play Davros or something, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
If you're going to get Olivier into Doctor Who as well, you wouldn't give him the mutant part, would you, really?
No.
You know, you give him something like Tekka and Time Lash. No, I'm kidding. You would give him a big part. You would give him a proper part written for him, wouldn't you, really? I mean, he would have been a great scientist or something like that in a unit type story, wouldn't he, or Olivier? And he would have made a deal of every scene. And he would have killed him in every scene as well, wouldn't you, really? He would have been the Doctor's sidekick.
I love John Pertwee's story about Laurence Olivier. You've heard that one, haven't you? Where he talks about him at the party.
Oh, yes.
But,
do you want to tell the story? When he basically, Laurence Olivier, he was friends with John Pertwee, and John Pertwee invited him to a party, and Laurence Olivier hated parties, apparently, was a bit of an introvert and hated being approached from behind. And it dragged him along to this party. He didn't like people approaching him from behind, but he went up and shook his hand, and he was fine. But anyway, this woman comes up behind Laurence Olivier, apparently, according to John Pertwee, puts her hands over his eyes and says, "Guess who?" You can imagine John telling this story. And he leapt up and threw her own, and John says, quote, "And she went over AOT," and he said, "This proves what a wonderful actor Laurence Olivier was." He turned to his host and he says, "Who is that old woman?" He said, "That's my mother-in-law." He says, "Isn't she marvelous?" You can imagine John.
See, the old school best. Frank is actually saying to us, he thought that it would be fun to be unrecognizable in all the makeup. A lot of actors said that, though, wouldn't they? That they would quite happily go under the makeup so that nobody knew. I think more of them are doing it today, but that could be because the talent is. Anyway, we'll move on. Cybermatch Strikes is also saying to us, Davros is honest in this story. He is right. He is helping famine, and he is right. People left at Tranquil Repose are not wanted and may as well end up as food.
The ends justify the means. That's the moral of the story.
Yeah.
In Davros's eyes, I mean, you're right. Cybermatch Strike. Davros was totally right. His plan was working. Davros was solving universal famine.
He's upside.
I mean,
yeah.
He's got a point. Maybe we should,
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, let's ask the question for this show for anybody watching this in the future. Are you there yet?
Other animals do it, like fish in a fish tank do it.
I think it's pretty horrible, isn't it? Really, but that's the whole point of how wonderful it is for Doctor Who, actually, isn't it?
It depends how you cook it.
Yeah. Never mind all the faffy nonsense that they're giving out now in the version today. This was proper Doctor Who. This made you go, ugh. It didn't make you go, oh God. It made you go, ugh.
I don't want to labour the point, but I do love it when Doctor Who made you scared and unnerved.
Yeah.
When it was a scary show.
And
Relative
it was
to the age.
scary, definitely, yeah.
Relative to the time and the age.
Yeah, Solient Green is TARDIS Travels is saying we can call that vile.
Great film. Great film.
Yeah. Well, based on the film, he's saying, yeah, and didn't he? No, it was an Evelyn Waugh novel that Sabre was inspired by, wasn't
it's
it?
a loved one, yeah, but the Solent Green elements in it, definitely, yeah.
No, I've said this before to people before in my life. No,
that should be the name of the YouTube channel. That should be the name of the channel. JT on Toes.
No, just Jordan, you're feeling a bit sick. I'm sure you are, but that's what these 2 beautiful episodes are supposed to do. They're supposed to make us feel a little bit queasy, and by God, they do, don't they, everybody? And Garbage says it brings a whole new meaning to the word jelly babies.
Oh,
Voted this week, this actual week, voted Britain's #1 sweeties. Do I hear the signs of the Candyman in business with Davros? I do hope not.
And they don't taste horrible, do they? They're quite nice.
Or do they? Our scientists were working to improve the flavor. Maybe they did. Oh, no, let's not go down.
No, it's getting dark.
Just Jordan, do you know what's... Do you know what? Just Jordan, do you know what's not going to make you feel sick? It's this. Yes, it's time. It's time where I get to ask the Whotastic panel here how much or what they're going to give the Revelation of the Daleks out of 10 on this scores out or scores on the TARDIS doors. It's all out of 10. So yeah, I'm going to start with Ian, Third Doctor Ian. I'm going to start with you. What are you going to give this story? No pressure.
The season where Terry Malloy matched Michael Wisher in the same season, playing Davros and appearing in a Cyberman story. Quite a little record there. I would give it an 8.
Ooh, very good. 8 out of 10 from Third Doctor Ian. And what about you, Badouria?
See, I'm probably going to be a bit harsher. I don't think it's a great story. There's so many elements of it I love, but I think it's too much padding, too long, not enough of the Doctor and Davros. As the Doctor Ian said, the Dalek voices are rubbish. It's not a great Dalek. It's probably one of the worst Dalek stories because it's not really about Daleks.
I like it when Roy Skelton turns up as the Grey Daleks, though. Old Zippy himself, great. I loved him to bits. That's when you get the real Dalek.
Real Dalek.
It wasn't the voice; it was the modulation, wasn't it? That was the problem.
Yeah.
Mm.
No. For me, it's probably only a 6, maybe a 6.5.
That's still not bad, though. That's still not bad. Yeah. Can I ask you, Badouria, if this came on as a new Doctor Who today, with all the CGI and stuff, would you enjoy it today?
No, because I'd probably still have the same criticisms of it taking too long to get the Doctor to the place where the action's happening.
Fair enough. That's good.
That's my main issue with it. As much as there's loads of entertaining stuff in there, you want the Doctor in the action.
It's a fair point, and I have heard other fans over the years saying something similar. Michael, what are you going to give Revelation of the Daleks?
I love it, but I do agree with what Badouria is saying, and for that, I'm chopping off a couple of points. 8 from me.
Okay, lovely.
But I do love it.
Phil, wakey.
I'm a bit torn. I am.
There's a song there.
I do really like it, but yeah, this last rewatch, I liked it less than I had previously because Alexei Sale really did get on my tits. And the hilarious deaths by extermination did kind of break the mood for me. And whilst there's amazing highs, I think there's some tragic lows, and therefore I've procrastinated enough. I'm going to go with 7.
7 out of 10. And I have to say that on this particular episode of Who's Views, I'm very, very impressed with his vocabulary this evening and his vernacular. Absolutely well done. Obviously, he hasn't been drinking yet. And Paul, what are you going to give this for scores on the TARDIS doors out of 10?
Well, I have to say this is no time lash. I'm just saying that now.
No, it's not.
I love this story. It's one of my favourite Colin Baker stories, I have to say. I wish Colin had more time in the story, more time as the Doctor. I think some great characters in this, great lines. I agree with some of the things people have said, but it's one of my favourite Colin Baker stories, probably my most favourite. I'm going to give it 9 out of 10.
That's fantastic. Let's go into the chat, see what everybody's saying there in the chat. We've got TARDIS Travels who's saying 8 out of 10. Sadeko is giving it 10 out of 10. That's fantastic. We've got Frank. Hello, Frank. He's saying 7.5 out of 10. Ooh, they're all a sort of a like, aren't they? They're all around the same time. Cybermatch Strikes, 9 out of 10. Garbage, 8 out of 10. Gemma, nice to see you, Gemma. Thanks for joining us. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. 8 out of 10. Yeah, welcome. Just Jordan, 5.5 out of 10. It's 5.5. Ooh, that's interesting, isn't it? That's interesting, that one. I agree with Bedouin. Says Dalek, I love you, and he's giving it a 7 out of 10. Very good. Cybermatch Strikes is also saying classic Doctor Who is padded always. A 60-minute edit would speed this episode up nicely. Now you're sounding like certain people that used to work for Doctor Who magazine, mate.
Yeah. Don't agree with that.
Awful.
Oh yeah. What we'll get is the high-speed Revelation of the Daleks in colour.
No, a black and white film noir version. That's what we'll get. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll probody get some sort of
Actually, that'd work, wouldn't it?
in the middle, won't we?
Waiting for the film noir version of the Happiness Patrol.
Yeah,
That'd be cool.
What score are you giving it, JT? What score are you giving it?
Oh yeah, I forgot. I'll come to that. It's like, Garbage is saying, I'm with Bedouin. So many good bits, way more than the bad bits, but it didn't just gel too well in total, and that damn DJ ruined it. It's interesting because Garbage was watching it for the first time in such a long time just this week for this show. So thank you for that, mate. Thank you all for watching it and joining in with it. We really need that. Your comments as part of this. It's all part of the fun, right? My score on the TARDIS store for this one, I loved it. I remember really enjoying it back in '85 on first broadcast. I've only watched it a couple of times since then. I have to be honest. I watched the VHS when that came out, and I do remember watching the DVD when that came out, and that's it. That's all. So it was nice to go back and revisit it for this. I understand exactly what Bedouin is saying. It's a shame that Colin isn't in there a lot more. The Doctor's not in there a lot more, but I think there's a payoff at the very end for me. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 because I really enjoyed it. And I just want to make a big shout out as well to Roger Lim for the incidental music. And Silver Screen, can you release it so we can do a review on it? Loved every minute of his score. Absolutely stunning. Really atmospheric. Adds to the spookiness. So well done to him.
Yeah. And the opening note, that opening transition is exactly the same as, it's exactly the same note, isn't it, as Caves of Androzani.
Yeah.
Oh, totally, yeah. And that again, that goes to your point, Spur. It could be the same part of the Doctor Who universe or that part of the universe. It could all be there. Next time one of us meets Graham Harper, let's ask him if that was in mind. He'll probably go, what shop? Cybermatch is actually saying to us, I love every long, slow minute of classic Who. We know you do, mate. We know. We're just teasing you. We know you do.
I'm just wondering, would it in a different era where it is 25-minute episodes, I think that would change the whole dynamic of the story, and you'd still have the Doctor and Perry battling the mutant, but you'd get to the part 1 cliffhanger, and part 1 is 25 minutes. Then perhaps the Doctor and Perry meet up with Natasha and Grigory or something like some other element, because as soon as they get to Tranquil Repose, they sit down with Tass and Beaker, and then they're led away by Daleks. So you could have easily had them get in the building, and I think that there's something creepy going on here that's not just this funereal, kind of center, I guess, for want of a better description. I think it could have been so much more intriguing with them involved rather than keeping them separate and having other characters do that. I think there's something weird going on here.
It suffers a little bit like the two Doctors, that it takes such a long time for Troughton and Colin to meet. They don't meet till episode 3. It's got the same kind of pacing in that respect. It's a bit odd, isn't it?
Yeah. It's an interesting conjecture. See what I did there? Yeah. But it is. I mean, I totally agree with you, Bedouin. Yeah, we're not daft on this show. I totally agree. I reckon had it been the tried and tested format that they were all used to, which was the 4 25-minute episodes, I reckon the Doctor and Perry would have got to Davros quicker, certainly by episode 3. And the whole of episode 4 would have been the big build-up, because it was totally paced differently as 4 25-minute episodes. And Saywood knew those 25 episodes. He was the script editor, for crying out loud. He knew what he was doing with that. But that whole season through them, I mean, you can actually see it. It's a very brave season. But for BBC management to come along and say, right, you're going to get this many 45-minute episodes and then leave them after, 20 odd years, 21 years of 25 minutes installments, which was handed down production team to production team. They had a crack at it.
Yeah, I mean, season 23, the original was going to be 45 as well, wasn't it? If it had gone ahead.
Well, that Nathan Turner was certainly planning for a 45-minute season after that, because they hadn't said anything else. So he just naturally assumed, as we all did, well, it'll come back in this format next year, because we know how far down they were with playing around with certain ideas for scripts and commissioning the authors and directors.
As you said, Blackpool was in the script, wasn't it? So.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was.
Not in this.
They may have got better at the pacing of it as it went on.
Well, actually, sorry. Go on. How does it end in your script, Badweir?
So the copy I have of episode 2 is a rehearsal script, and so it just ends with the Doctor saying, "This place is called Tranquil Repose. I think we should leave it that way." That's the final line. Yeah. Run titles. That's how it ended. Certainly at this stage, whenever the rehearsal period was taking place. So even that, "I'll take you to Blackpool" was clearly added late on, and then dropped before broadcast. So
do you know that would have worked though, when we know where they were, because by that point when they were filming, Nathan Turner would have known exactly where they were going in the beginning of the next episode, and we all know he loved that sort of stuff. So Colin, according to Colin, I've heard him say in the past as well, he did say the line, "I'll take you to Blackpool," credits, to leave the audience going, "Ooh, we're going on a lovely holiday. We're going to have a candy floss and ride a donkey." But it didn't quite happen, did it? Because we know what happened.
It was recorded then. That line was recorded.
I'm sure Mr. Baker said
that
somewhere. It was. I said the line on camera. "Oh, all right, I'll take you to Blackpool." And he looks at the camera and then sparkles.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm imagining it, but I'm sure there's an outtake where he says the line.
I've never seen it. If there is.
And it is, and it they just stop it before he says, because he's mouthing the word, the bee's about to come out. So they clearly filmed it as Blackpool.
Yeah.
And in Australia, the closing credits of that episode were particularly exciting for me, because the continuity announcer came on and says, "We're going to be leaving." What did they say? They said basically, "You'll join us next week. Doctor Who returns next week." And I'm thinking, okay, new episode where the Doctor revisits. I remember they used the words "revisits" the mind robber. And I'm thinking, and I'd only read about the mind robber in books and things, and I'm thinking, oh, it's a new episode with that
with him in it,
villain coming back, because I didn't, I wasn't keyed in at that point with the way fandom was. It wasn't like it is now. And then to my delight, the following week, black and white titles, and I'd never seen Patrick Troughton at that point, so that was very exciting.
Well, what a story to introduce yourself to the second Doctor.
Yeah.
But again, tying in with the fact, Pat Troughton was in season 22 as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
All bizarre. But yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? Really, and it ended. It was a weird time, wasn't it? 1985, because we're now looking at the end of season 22, and as I said right at the top of the show, I don't think we ever saw Doctor Who with this much energy, if you like, ever again in the last 4 years of its life. It's kind of like interesting to look at it all, season 22, and then compare it to 23, 24, 25, 26, isn't it?
It's kind of like the fatal blow. It kept crawling along, but this is the blow that knocked it out.
Alexei Sale himself said at the time about this, when he was interviewed about this, Colin Baker, the last of the great Doctors.
Oh.
Interesting that he said that, isn't it? And I mean, we're not going to say anything about this because, of course, we got Sylve after that, and God love him, and we like Sylve here. But I sort of understand what he means when you're looking at the context of the series, maybe not just the lead actor, but the series, because this was the last sort of big dramatic Who, I think, and you really can see it in Revelation.
When you were casting your mind back to that season at the time, I can hear that horrible song coming into my ears. You know, the one that Ian Levine did? You know the one I'm talking about? I can feel blood come out of ears as I speak. So,
and it was also, JT, it was also that feeling every season thereafter was, we hadn't had that feeling before of, well, will it get renewed? Okay, great. Season 3. Is there going to be another season? Is there going to be another season? There was never that feeling before this. It was always, oh, Doctor Who'll be on next year. Doctor Who'll be on next year.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, great, a new season. Hope it works.
Yeah. But certainly when you compare Revelation to what happened a couple of years later with Remembrance, the tone is totally different again. So it shows also the adaptability of Doctor Who, because it went into a completely different, and I know John was still there, but it went into completely different looking production. Mm-hmm. This really gives it some welly, and when you go and watch it again now, Who viewers, have a look at this. This is real powerful BBC drama that they were producing at the time. This was no holds barred. They weren't frightened back then. Now it sort of wimps on everywhere, doesn't it? I'm not even going to go down there right now because I get a headache. I want to say hello and welcome to Alphabet Cat. Nice to see you. Alphabet Cat, you are so furry and cute. I think Eric Saber was a fan of the 45-minute format, as he thought it allowed the narrative to flow better. I think he has said that, hasn't he, Mr. Sayward? Yeah. I think he's also said as well that if they knew what they learned from it, meant that the series that would have come afterwards, had it not been put on hiatus, would have been totally different, because they'd learned from that series. Yeah. And again, it's not, we don't know, we're never going to see it, but it would have been, because they knew where the lows were, the highs were, how many cliffhangers they needed, did they need to carry things on for 3 episodes, all that sort of stuff. It would have been completely different again, because they'd learned. Nothing wrong with that, is there? Dada, hello, nice to see you as well. Only like Vengeance of Varos that season. Oh, it wasn't. Oh, and TARDIS Travels is saying yes, and in 1985 we got Slip Back on the radio as well. And it's strange you should mention that, TARDIS Travels. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and you ring that bell, because very soon Paul and I, as part of our Sound of Whozik series, will be looking at Slip Back, and we're going to be reviewing that. Got a bit to say about that as well.
Yeah.
Yes. So what's that? Garbage is saying Colin was perfect in this episode and came into his own in the trial of a Time Lord. Cybermat Strikes is saying you can feel the subsequent seasons lack confidence until season 25. I think that's what we're trying to get at, isn't it? The whole. Yeah. It was. Oh,
they knew they were being watched, weren't they?
That's it.
If they put the slightest foot out of line, then it would just be an excuse to come down on them, and they were so. It was just a new definition of walking on eggshells, wasn't it? And you can't really be expected to produce a TV series with that environment. And
totally,
I mean, still did, but you can obviously tell it's different.
And I think any of us who grew up with that era find it very jarring these days when it's too far the other way. Sometimes there's a bit of overconfidence.
Yeah, totally. Alphabet Cat is saying a lot now, including this. What was good about this story was the body horror element. That's what they said about it, wasn't it? With the human Daleks. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Yes. So listen, thank you so much for joining us for this. Our review of Revelation of the Daleks as part of our We Love Davros season. This has all been about the fact that we have been saying to certain showrunners of our beloved show and certain production teams of our beloved show, bugger off. Quite frankly, we love Davros. We're the fandom. Leave him alone. There's nothing wrong with it. And stop pandering to a minority who are sensitive about getting out of bed in the bloody morning. I'm sick of it, quite frankly. Leave him alone.
To be fair, it was a bit rough for me this morning. So,
yes.
Alarm for 5 o'clock in the morning.
Very early, Michael. To be fair,
Michael is very early in the morning with him there because he's in Australia, and it's very good of you to come and join us for Revelation of the Daleks.
Once again, I always say this: if I was completely inarticulate, that's why.
No, it's just because he's like that usually. You can get him at 6 o'clock in the evening, and he's the same. I tell you, it's absolutely right.
All he's hearing is Taylor Swift lyrics.
Davros never says garbage. He will not be cancelled. No. And if you're interested, if you have just found us through this one, go back and look at our others. We've done 3 shows as part of our We Love Davros season. We've done our review of Genesis of the Daleks. Thank you very much for all your comments for that one. We've had our big We Love Davros discussion show last week, where we talked about all the elements of Davros' history and why he's a brilliant science fiction character that should not be touched in any way at all. Mr. Russell, don't drop the T. And now we've got this one here for you as well, where we've just geeked out about Revelation of the Daleks from 1985. And if you haven't seen it as well, season 22 is about to be released on standard Blu-ray. We've got Merchandise Paradise. It's very short. You'll love it. It's only 5 minutes. Go and have a look at that on the Merchandise Paradise playlist from yesterday as of broadcasting. Oh, gosh, isn't it fabulous? Thank you all so much for joining us, everybody in the chat. We had great audiences tonight. Thank you all for your comments. You can join us again tomorrow here on the channel for Headlines. Yes, that's the show where we get slightly political. 7:30 tomorrow night here on the channel. Please come and join us then with your comments and your views of certain headlines that have made the Doctor Who universe this week. Thanks to Paul, thanks to Phil, thanks to Michael, thanks to Bedouin, and thanks for Third Doctor Ian for joining me. Hope you've enjoyed the show tonight.
Yes, I have. Yes, thank you.
It was good. Yeah,
Thank you. Yes.
yeah, lovely to see you all.
That's the correct answers there, everybody. Thank you for joining us in the chat. Don't forget to please like the video, share the video, do what you need to do with that, but please do subscribe to the channel and go and look at all our content. Lots more coming up for you very, very soon as we move out of our We Love Davros season. We'll see you tomorrow night for Headlines, hopefully. Join us then. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Fabulous.